Yeah. Speaking of Elon Musk, Twitter is moving to Austin.
That is what I heard. I mean, is that like we're gonna do it maybe, or is that really happening?
I feel like if he makes a tweet, it's just law. Like that just happens.
That'd be great.
But they only have about 1,000 employees left. But I think just to list the amount of tech companies that are in Austin, I think adding another huge one to the list is awesome.
And the reason just being a little more freedom.
Probably it's a tax cut, so they're not getting in California.
That makes sense.
And I'm just assuming he can pay employees less.
Boy, all this negativity about California in the last 5 years.
You
is
know,
crazy.
I could see there being a time, maybe it might take a while, it might take 20 years, where people start leaving Texas to go to California because it's cheaper. I don't know if that'll ever be possible.
I mean, the weather there is pretty awesome, and California was pretty. Maybe if there was a crazy natural disaster, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be doing it because of prices.
Gotcha.
I don't think we'll ever be at a point where it costs more to live in Texas and California. Unless people started living in the desert or something, which
California's got deserts, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I've noticed that you've been really ramping it up, is all your social media content.
Yeah, I felt like I used to do a ton of it in 2021 and 22, and then I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, I'll batch 100 videos, post 2 a week, or then started using the podcast stuff. And I don't know, I've noticed that engagement has been pretty down lately.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's with agents across the board or if it's just people are tired of my same stuff. So
engagement, you mean likes or people commenting or all of the above?
Likes, comments, views mostly. Because
it
used to be I'd post anything and, be at least 1,000 views. And then seeing 300, it's like, man,
what do you think that is?
Spend time editing these videos. And
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It could be a mix of my followers are tired of seeing my stuff. Instagram doesn't want to put out that type of content anymore. It seems like the shorter the video, the more favored it is.
Okay.
On the apps now. I mean, people have the attention span of a goldfish.
Sure.
So I'm going to try doing shorter things and more shareable, fun content. But sometimes it's just hard to come up with ideas.
Do you think any of it has to do with the fact that we're in an election year and there's just a lot of political stuff that's being talked about, and that's a super hot topic right now, and anything that's, not that is maybe being pushed down a little bit?
Definitely possible. I could also see that so I feel like a lot of it is just based on Instagram and TikTok's algorithms. And so perhaps they're going to favor content like that talks about political things instead because it gets more engagement.
I just always notice the videos that seem to do the best when I post are the ones that are controversial.
Yeah.
And
I'd
so
agree.
with the election being extremely controversial, it kind of leads me to believe that it's one of those things that's sad but true, right? What bleeds leads. Is that what they say?
Well, I
right?
understand, yeah.
so if you're yeah, let me tell you about buying a home or this and that, it's it's former President Trump shot at, okay, now I'm interested.
Yeah. Makes me think I should do content that involves, I don't know, something political, even if it's not even a political post.
Right.
Just has one of our candidates in it.
Yeah. We should do a dress-up day. You be Biden and I'll be Trump, or vice versa.
Oh, I can do a really good Donald Trump.
Ooh, that's not bad.
I'll bring my best wig.
Here, I'll do a Joe Biden. Ready? How was it?
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
I saw this video yesterday. There were two comedians. Shane Gillis was playing Trump, and I want to say it's the guy's name was Adam Ray or something, who's playing Biden. And this was at the mothership, and they were doing a fake debate. It's really good.
Is that Kill Tony or something?
Yeah, I think so.
I see all of those, man. Those things are hilarious. And Tony Hinchcliffe, he's an Ohio boy, Youngstown.
Yeah. I've seen him quite a few times, and now
Seen him
he's
once.
just blown up.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, especially after the whole, what did he do, the roast with Tom Brady?
Yeah, yeah.
And that was after that, I feel like, well, I mean, even the Kill Tony stuff, he was pretty big to begin with. But, the all of the stuff, I mean, that's another thing. You've got all this comedy in Austin. You've got Elon's talking about bringing Twitter. We've got Tesla. We've got all of these things. And yet, every time I do I'm part of this little group for Gold Star where we have the branch managers that get together once a week and we kind of talk about what we're seeing, what's in our market, what's working, what's not. And it's good stuff because, there's usually always at least one aha moment where someone's like, wait, what are you doing? Or like, what did you say when you did that? And it's great. But every week, people are like, man, I'm hearing so much like negativity in regards to the housing market in Austin, right? And it's interesting to me because here you are hearing all of these things that are non-housing related, but definitely affect the housing market, like businesses moving to Texas. You've got, an entire, arguably like art form, comedy is just blowing up in Austin. Obviously, during the pandemic, Austin did really, really well. So, um, I know the answer as far as the statistics for real estate are concerned, but what do you think it is that is causing all this chatter that like figuratively from a housing standpoint, Austin's just like falling apart?
I think it makes great social media buzz.
Yeah.
There was an article that came out that said for the first year in the last 10, I'm probably butchering this information, but like for the first year in the last 10, Travis County lost population
Mm,
last year.
okay.
But what it doesn't include is Williamson County, Hayes County, Bastrop County.
Sure. People move into the
Like,
suburbs.
yeah,
Yeah.
people just moved out,
Mm-hmm.
as people do. Um, so I think, and that article got shared thousands of times because people are like, oh, good. I didn't miss the boat. Or
Right.
I think people are jealous that some people got houses during the peak time and other people didn't. Um, but, you get massive growth like we had in 2020 through 22, where, the average home gained, 40% in value.
So
And,
yeah, yeah.
and obviously that's not sustainable. And I don't think even, well, I guess homeowners were cool with it. But, uh, it was obviously, you couldn't keep that up. So
Sure.
eventually we're going to have to see prices level out and stable growth is better. So anytime I have someone who says something like, well, maybe right now is a bad time to buy, like I see prices are going down. I'm like, look, I can't tell you what the future holds,
Yeah.
except I can tell you what businesses are moving here. I can tell you how our population is growing. I can tell you about all the new cultural things and all the new, commercial things that are happening here. And that alone will make prices of housing go up because there will be more people.
Well, and one thing that I always look at is like, one of the stats is to your point, like in maybe 2022 and even 2023, no, 23 and some of 24. Like if you bought in 2022, it's debatable that, you might not be able to sell your home for what you paid for it if you bought in 2022. And I always look at it from like a long-term standpoint where if we're just going to rate a real estate market on 1 year, like what are we doing? Because if we look at appreciation over the last 5 years in Austin, or especially 10 years in Austin, or even arguably the 3 years in Austin, I mean, the year over year appreciation is extremely high. But yeah, I guess you're right. It's a good talking point for social media to say, oh, they only yielded like, even if it's no appreciation for 1 year, it's like, well, we're really going to judge an entire housing market just on 1 year? I mean,
Yeah.
that just doesn't make any sense unless you're like flipping homes, which that's a very small portion of the people that are buying. Um,
For sure. And I think a lot of people are disappointed. They settled on a house that they weren't, they were only maybe 60, 70% satisfied with, but they felt like it was one of their only options in spring of 2022, where we didn't know when this market was going to end. And then they wanted to resell it,
for a ton of money.
this year because they're saying, well, I see so many other houses I'd rather live in
Yeah.
now. But I'm saying, look, you're not even going to be able to make what you bought it for, much less trying to make profit to cover my fees and things like that.
Yeah, it's all kind of a game. I mean, there's a give and take always. That was what we ran into when things were, crazy with housing prices. People were like, "Well, I want to sell my house and make a ton of money," but then they look at the market and they're like, "Oh my God, these houses are so expensive." It's like, well, how do you think you're getting so much for yours? So yeah, I mean, there's no sweet spot where you get top dollar for your home and then buy super low unless you take time out of the market. But even then, you're losing out on appreciation. So
Unless you want to spend a boatload of money remodeling.
sure, well, and that's a risk as well. But you mentioned that the statistic about Austin for the first time in 10 years, lost some of its population, and we covered that the majority of that, it's not like they headed to another state, they moved, into the suburbs. I've been hearing a lot more chatter lately, and I want your opinion on whether or not this is real estate agents just trying to sell a house, or if this is like something that you would agree with. I'm hearing a ton of chatter about people that are buying outside of Austin, specifically in like the San Marcos kind of, between San Antonio and Austin area. I've heard a lot of agents just flat out say like, "Oh yeah, it's blowing up. It's blowing up. Those areas are taking off." What are your thoughts on that?
Gosh, I've definitely been saying that about the city of Kyle for sure. But I mean, if you drive, from Austin to San Antonio and you just look out the windows, you can see how much new commercial stuff, especially, I mean, I think Buda, they've kind of put all they can at the moment.
Yeah.
Kyle, there's still a lot being developed, but they also have everything you need there. And I think that's just going to continue growing south. I mean, you already have a great population in San Marcos, and the difference of Kyle to San Marcos is 7 miles, maybe. I think all of that will be full of commercial. And they're building that, that new movie studio that we've been talking about since
Oh
our
yeah,
first
that's right.
episode.
Yes.
I don't know where they are in progress with that. But they're building in Kyle. It's called, I want to call it like the Brickyard or something. It's, as they say with any new development, it's a new domain.
Sure.
But, a big lifestyle center where they're going to have, retail, office, housing, all of that in one big development.
I feel like I haven't been out there in a while. It was one of those things I'd like get out there maybe like every other month and check out a new restaurant or something because things were just kind of popping up all over the place. And that plaza, I remember when I first moved here, the one that's right on 35, all that was there was a Starbucks.
Yeah.
That was it. And that was like it was like 4 years ago. And now it's just an entire shopping center that you could, I just can't believe how quickly they put all that together. So you're on the bandwagon that it is blowing up.
Yeah, I mean, definitely if someone said, where should I invest next, I would definitely say south of Austin to north of San Antonio for sure.
That's awesome. Well, and that was, I mean, to be quite honest, it's validating to hear. It's something I've been kind of saying for years, but once things slowed down a little bit, everything kind of slowed down, right? And it's like, well, what are my thoughts on it now? And I just was literally chatting with a client and an agent, and the agent was just really kind of going on and on, like, "Oh my God, that area's blowing up, this, that, and the other." And I was like, So I started asking more people, so it's good to get your answer.
I have a listing coming up in Plum Creek in Kyle, which I'm super excited about. Let's see, making sure I'm not wrong here. I think, it's my first listing where you get two houses for one. There's a front house that's a 3-bed, 3-bath, which can rent for $2,500 a month. Then the back house is it's a garage with a studio apartment above it, which is rented out for $1,300 a month. So you get both houses for the price of one. The whole listing will be $500,000. So
When's that going to be live?
Should be live very start of August. We're waiting for a tenant to move out.
Okay. So Chase is on my other podcast, or our podcast, Market on the Rocks, because I'm kind of treating this one like a whatever. Market on the Rocks. We got to be doing it.
Branded shirts.
Right. And so one of our guests was David with Y'all Out Boy, which we made good on our promise. Chase already had his tickets, but I am bringing myself and 3 other people.
Nice.
I know, right? Got a little 4-pack of tickets. Really thought about doing the VIP, but it was a little
Talk
steep.
to you out of Liberty Lunch.
Yeah, it was a little steep, but we're going to be going there next week. I'm pretty excited about it. So shout out to Y'all Out Boy. But I wanted to ask you, you've done a fantastic job with Market on the Rocks in respect to like getting guests outside of real estate. Anybody that you're trying to track down or hunt down to get on the podcast that's real estate outside of real estate?
Yeah, I think it's about time we have a female on the cast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said on our last episode, I think one of my dream guests, which I think is very doable, and I'm going to send this video to her.
Yeah.
I don't actually know her in person, but Gabby, who owns Gabriella's Revival Coffee, Taku, Muchero, Malavita.
Yeah.
Also
I've been there.
Also a DJ. Also, people think she works for the cartel. I feel like we got a lot to unpack with her.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she'll do it, but
there it is.
We'll find out.
Gabby, where you at? Anyone else that you've been trying to chase around?
Yeah, I'd like to get the governor on here. Like
the governor. Wow. Let's start with the mayor.
No, I think it would be really cool to have. I don't know. It would be cool to have local politician. I just met a guy the other day who he is the voice of the lieutenant governor. So anytime the lieutenant governor needs to speak on something, he's the one who speaks. I don't know if he does podcasts or anything outside of work. It's probably pretty locked down to be able to just speak as the lieutenant governor. I don't know. It would be, I don't know. I would like to get some more business owners who have been in Austin for a long time.
The reason I ask is because, I did a little bit of traveling over the 4th of July holiday, and I need to really sit down and think about who I want to invite, because I know who my obvious guests are that I want to get on here, but I want to do a little bit of outside of the box as well and kind of chat with, typically I try to keep it business owners, real estate related, but I just love that we had Anthony with, the ATX drinker, and obviously David with Y'all Out Boy was a really, really kind of unique one. And I'm trying to think of like other industries that are just way outside of, real estate and the financial arena or anything that involves, something fun.
Yeah, I went to, so along the lines of that, yesterday I was showing rental houses to this client, and we were showing this half duplex that was like just north of downtown. And it was an older house. It's probably built in 1930s, and we had to arrange with the tenant to be able to go in. And I didn't realize the tenant was going to be there at the time. But when you walk into someone's house and you're just like, man, this is a badass person.
Yeah.
Like, just walked in and like there's all these concert posters from a bunch of country artists. This man had like probably 50 pairs of boots right at his front door. He had guitars hung up on the wall. Definitely like a Western feel to the house. Then he had like empty bottles of Lone Star all over the living room. And I walked in.
This guy sounds like my spirit animal.
And looked around, and I was like, man, this place is sick. I love this. And like he was showing us his old house, and then we walked into the garage, and he had a bunch of other just unique things. He also had like a couple motorcycles and stuff. And then he showed us he has like a camper van thing that he said he's been driving around the country. He also had like this old school Jeep that he's working on, this old school truck. And I was like, what do you do? What is your career? And because like this is the type of person who is keeping Austin weird for sure.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm an illustrator. I make concert posters for Willie Nelson and George Strait.
Well, that's
and I was
cool.
like, that's so interesting. Like, and then he also works for Lone Star. He's like a freelancer. But like Lone Star Beer, he's on retainer for. And I was like, this is just really cool. Like, these are the kind of people who made Austin what it was.
Right.
And like, they're still out there. They're just hiding.
We got to get that guy on.
I have his phone number.
Well, you call him and you tell him I want to interview him. Anybody, man, I wish I was sponsored. We should be sponsored by Lone Star Beer.
We should be sponsored by Bacardi.
The amount of Lone Star Beer. Bacardi doesn't get drank here, but we do. we
Didn't
do.
you say they're going to pay us like $3,000 an episode?
They offered not an episode. They just offered for like we had to do like 6 different like promos. I think it was 6. and then it was like $3,000 that they were gonna basically like scrape off for every single thing. I think it
I
was
would get.
might have been. I don't know if it was
I will
6
get
or
your
12.
logo tattooed on my cheek for $3,000 a month.
You better be careful what you ask for. I swear to God, they will definitely. Well, $3,000 a month. No, they wouldn't pay that. No, but they would definitely work with you on a cheek tattoo. I guarantee it. But we do a barbecue every single Friday. I call it Barbecue and Mingle, and we have people over here. This week, I'm doing a pork belly. So we have 2 of them, actually. We're doing 2 pork bellies. We'll get those on the smoker. We encourage just, real estate professionals, insurance companies, CPAs, and right now I want this guy here. But the one thing that I do, because I'm not taking multiple orders for alcohol, is the fridge is always stocked with Lone Star beer. And I've been doing this barbecue now for probably the entire year almost, right? So we're like 7 months in. Multiply that. I mean, I'm buying like 2 cases of Lone Star every single week for this party for the last 25 weeks. Lone Star, call me. It's the only beer that makes you look younger and makes your teeth whiter.
Is that a fact?
That's what Dale says. People. There's a couple of musicians that are sponsored by Lone Star, and every time we go and we see Dale Watson, he's always got some sort of quippy ad for Lone Star, and it usually something to that effect. So
I feel like Lone Star would be a great sponsor.
Right? It's the official beer of Texas, founded in 1884, because it's on the can. That's the only reason I can remember it.
It's a good fact,
right? So yeah, I mean, I want to meet this guy. Let's get back to that. And I want to know more about Lone Star and Lone Star sponsorship, because that is something I can get behind. Because there's been a few things like, would you do this? Would you do that? And I'm like, I don't drink Bacardi. It just seems cheap. But not Bacardi seems cheap. It seems cheap to be sponsored by something that I'm not a part of.
Oh, man. We could be having mojitos every single episode.
That's a good point. I'm not a rum guy. You like rum?
When they sponsor me? No, I like rum.
You?
It's not my go-to, but if I was on a cruise or
what's your go-to?
On a cruise?
No, in general.
Oh, I don't know. If I was to go to a bar, I mean, right now I'm not eating sugar, so tequila and soda would be
little TSL.
Yeah. Or ranch water.
I just started drinking tequila.
Interesting.
Yeah, I went to Tulum. Well, I mean, I've had tequila before. It's not like my first time or anything, but I just never enjoyed it. And I went to Tulum, and I went to this crazy tequila bar where they only served tequila, and it was in this really kind of fancy restaurant. It was like a tree house. I forget the name of the place, but it's very popular. You can Google it. And once you're done with your fancy dinner, if you talk to the servers enough, you find that in the corner top part of this little treehouse restaurant is a full-blown tequila bar, which is probably the size of this podcast room. And it could only fit 8 people. So I go there late, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm like, can I get a beer? They're like, only tequila. I'm like, fuck, I don't really like tequila. So the guy's like, oh, let me show you some things. So he basically puts me through tequila school, tells me everything about tequila, shows me certain tequilas, and come to find out, there's a reasonable amount of tequila that I like. I don't like all tequila, but so yeah, I've been dabbling more with tequila now. Fun fact.
I don't know what it is about those little tequila bars, but they like to have the extremely small spaces. There used to be I think it was Clive on Rainy Street. This is a while back. This is pre-pandemic when they tore the place down, but they used to have this tiny little mezcal bar that was in the backyard, and I'm pretty sure it had maybe 8 seats in it. Have you drank mezcal?
Well, that was what I also learned. Tequila is, it's all mezcal, but then tequila is made from agave in a specific region of Mexico. So yes.
Mezcal just tastes like, I don't know, tastes like cigarettes to me.
Well, I mean, it depends on where it's made, right? I mean, it's all a thing. So that was my point, is he started showing me all of these. I just feel like my experience with tequila prior to this was you've got Patron, you've got 1800, and everybody just drinks silver tequila, right? And what I've identified as a whiskey drinker, I'm more into the reposados, the anejos. I like the taste that you kind of described.
People like that reposado.
Yeah, I like it to taste a little bit like what did you say?
Cigarette.
A cigarette, yeah, cigarette.
That
Yeah,
feels
sure.
right.
I like that smokier taste. I like that kind of more burnt, oakier taste. That's my thing. And one of the things that they did that I feel silly even saying this because I feel like I never really noticed it until he pointed it out. But like he brings out like this miniature fruit plate and like sprinkles tahini over all. So I've got pineapple, I've got some strawberries, we've got some dragon fruit, we've got obviously limes, and he's like, try this with that, and like we're shooting tequila or sipping tequila, a little bit of pineapple with tahini. I'm like, this is amazing. And then what I identified is all I was doing was making a little mini margarita in my mouth.
Pretty
Right?
much, yeah.
I'm like, so when I drink tequila now, I'll just make a little mini margarita in my mouth. And you can make some pretty fun margaritas if you've got some, different kinds of fruit.
That's a good point. I haven't really got into tahini or chamoy. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if this is a Texas thing or if white people just caught on to Mexican things, but
I didn't know anything about it until I
white
moved
people
to
are
Texas.
obsessed with Mexican things right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always enjoyed Mexican things, but I did not know about tahini until I moved to Texas.
Same.
When I moved down here, I thought it was like a Texas thing. And then I even like kind of mentioned it to some of my friends and they were like, oh, this is great. But to your point, like this was like 5 years ago. But then like I was up there probably 2 years ago and they had tahini. And as much as I would love to take some credit for like, I don't know how it like wasn't there and then was, but yeah, you're right. The whole like, Mexican food. Who doesn't like Mexican food?
Oh, I agree.
I mean, that's just.
But things like, I feel like only in the last couple of years, tahini is now. I feel like you can go anywhere and you can find in the U.S. and you can find it. Same with what's a little hot sauce with the cork on the top? You have some
Cholula.
Yeah, I see that everywhere.
Yeah, Cholula. That's
like the chamoy syrup, the Lucas candy, bimbo bread.
Yeah,
The stuff is making its way around.
I agree.
And maybe it's just Texas. Maybe I'm just living in a bubble.
It could be.
Simulation. I don't know.
Or maybe they're just letting too many illegal immigrants cross the border.
Perfect. Let's get some clips.
Totally kidding. I don't know.
This is what they're bringing on their.
Let me show you my
boxcar
chart.
truck.
Let me show you my chart.
This is where the tahini enters. Right here around Cesar Chavez.
Right. Let me show you my chart. So, I don't know, man, but yeah, I going back to liquors and all of that kind of stuff because Bacardi's not my thing. So yeah, started drinking tequila. I enjoy it. I like it better when it's hot out. I am ideally going to be drinking whiskey, but you know what? Sometimes when it's like 100 degrees, a shot of whiskey just doesn't feel right.
I agree.
But a Lone Star always does, no matter what the temperature is.
So does a land shark or a Corona.
Yeah, those are good. Fun fact about Corona, Dos Equis, even Modelo. All of those are beers made in Mexico that are originated and owned by breweries that were founded by German immigrants. All those beer recipes, they're all just German lagers. Dos Equis, Modelo, Tecate, Land Shark is not on that list, but people like those really like light kind of summery beers. They're just German lagers, man.
Interesting.
I know, right?
I used to think that Stella was a Mexican beer, and then I
No.
read the bottle of it. Do you know where it's made?
Czech Republic?
In Belgium.
Belgium. Okay, I thought that was a Czech beer. No, Stella's great. I
Yeah.
love Stella,
I always thought it was Mexican. I always compared it with Dos Equis.
but not as good as Lone Star. Lone Star beer.
All right,
gonna
next
push for this.
topic.
Moving on. So here's one that I've been asking everybody about to kind of keep it real estate centric, because that's ultimately what the backbone of my podcast is supposed to be. I read a very nice article on Tuesday that came out where ultimately, they've been announcing it like crazy. It's September 18th, I believe, is when the Fed meets, and there's a 100% chance, they've said, of a Fed funds rate cut, right? 100% chance, barring anything crazy, that would happen in the economy. And in addition to that 100%, they're saying for a 0.25% cut, and then there is a 7% chance that when that cut hits, that it could even be a 0.5% cut, depending on how additional jobs reports and everything come out. So it is very, very probable that rates are going down. And that is something that I feel like every home buyer, every real estate agent, every mortgage lender, we've all just been like waiting, and it's almost here. What are your thoughts, and how is that going to affect you and your market?
Well, you know what? We're sitting on like a 685 ish right now. If they went down 1/4 point, we're at 6.6. If they went down 0.5 point, we're at 6.35. I don't know if that's enough to move the needle
There you
and
have
make the buffaloes run into the river. You know, I don't know if I don't think people. Actually, I do think the average person is expecting at some point that the rates are going to be at 4 again. The average person doesn't really understand how this stuff works.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a 0.5 point drop would be great, especially to the people who did end up financing above a 7. But yeah, thinking about that wonderful phone call you made the other day with the client who was finished dating her rate. What does the audience need to know in regards to refinancing? You know, agents have been pushing for the last 2 years. You know, marry the house, date the rate. How long do you have to date the rate before you can break up with it? Like, when can you refinance? It's not the next month.
It is.
It is?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, unless a bank or lender offers a loan with a prepayment penalty, which I honestly don't even know any lenders that are doing that, you can refinance, you know, right after you make your very first payment. Typically, you know, you're in the same market as when you purchased, so there usually is going to be zero to no benefit, and that's why it doesn't happen. The whole date the rate, marry the house was with the intention that, you know, you're going to make enough payments and then rates are going to go down. This isn't like you weren't going to date for like 3 months. Let's just put it that way. You know, when maybe defining date was more like
Engage it.
engage the rate. Or I don't know.
Divorce it.
Right. So
have a situationship with it for 2 years.
I mean, here's the like very mathematical answer, right? So when we refinance, we're required by law to provide a net tangible benefit. Net tangible benefit basically means that we are going to be able to save you enough money to recoup your closing costs within a specific timeline. Typically, it's like 24 to 36 months, depends on the program. So most people, when we look at it, it's fair to say that if you cannot reduce your interest rate by 0.5%, you will never meet a net tangible benefit, even if you wanted to refinance anyway. Because I have run into situations, you know, when you refinance, you usually get up to 2 months of what we call deferment. Sometimes I hear mortgage lenders slip up and say, oh, we'll give you 2 months off your payment. That's kind of like a bad way to describe it, because you're not taking time. You're not like getting credit for that. It's just deferment. So you're deferring 2 months. But I've definitely seen situations where people are kind of in dire straits and they're like, look, I'd like to refinance. I don't care if I save $10. I just want to have 2 months off my payment. You know, I want to defer my payment 2 months. And that's when we have to say, well, even though you want to do this, we legally cannot. So rule of thumb is that we can't even refinance you unless we're able to reduce your mortgage payment by at least 0.5%. And then even if we were to say, well, hey, we're going to reduce it 0.5%, we're going to charge you to buy the interest rate down, now the costs are high enough that we probably still won't meet that net tangible benefit. So I usually tell people, and this is contingent upon your loan amount, because if you owe more money, then even a little bit of a reduction in the interest rate is going to make a bigger difference than if you owe a small amount of money on your mortgage balance. I usually tell people, let's look into what your options are when we reach about 3/4 to up to a full percent on your interest rate. At that point, depending on how long you've been in the loan, depending on what your goals are, that is usually where I tell people, look, it's worth taking a look at. So if you have a 7% and we're able to get you down to a 6.25 without charging you a ton of fees, definitely worth taking a look at, especially if you have a loan amount over $500,000. If it's under $500,000, we may want to look at it when, you know, we hit that full percentage point. But I typically find that, it's split down the middle. You either have borrowers that are like, I want to refinance as soon as I possibly can because they truly kind of need some relief. And then you've got other people that are like, oh, I'm not refinancing unless I can get like 1.5 to 2% off of my rate, in which case, like, the debate becomes like, by the time that becomes available, not to say that it will or it won't, but the time it becomes available, the amount of interest that you will have paid by just kind of digging your heels in, you could have made up for and just refinanced again, right? Because people look at it like, if I'm going to refinance, I'm going to do it once and that's it. We have to look at that recoup time. Because if we're able to reduce your rate, let's say even by like 1%, but you're like, I'm not doing it unless I can get 2%. Well, if we're saving you, we'll just say $300 a month, and the cost to refinance was $3,000, well, you break even in 10 months. And so if you find yourself saving for another year and then a year goes by and you're like, well, rates are even lower now, you shouldn't look at it like, oh, I should have just waited until now and only done it once, because you're technically, $4,000 in the black. And that's the part that people have a tough time kind of, because then hypothetically, if it goes the other way, what if rates do come down? You're like, I need 2 points or whatever it is lower. If rates do come down and you don't refinance and then they go back up, now you're really bummed.
Wow.
So refinance is it's how I cut my teeth in this business. It was the first pretty much 12 years of my career. It's a different animal, man. It really is, because you have a client that already has a home. There's less sense of urgency, and there is, everybody's reactive. And I typically find that people are scrambling to refinance once rates go up after they go down, not when they're on their way down.
Yeah, of course. Someone's trying to buy a stock
Time
or
the market.
crypto or something. They're like, oh, it's gonna keep going down. Again, this is people with buying houses right now. They're saying, well, I see the prices have gone down. Are they gonna keep going down?
Right.
And I hate how people ask me like I just know.
Excuse me.
Or I guess I like that people think I know.
Well, the thing I think people sometimes look for just validation. They're not really looking for advice. And the question I have for you is, why do you, and I want you to answer this without saying, well, social media, like, why do you think people think they're so clever?
Explain the question more.
So I had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman that, is thinking about buying a home, and he's going over all of these like things that he's been, thinking about, and maybe I'll do it this way or I'll toss it that way. Or even my client that you got the pleasure of hearing, where, she flat out was like, well, I need you to like figure out a way to like make this work.
Yeah.
We deal in math, we deal in reality. And so what is it about? Because part of me thinks it's like a generational thing. I don't have older people calling me asking me for like some sort of hack.
Yeah, it's a young people thing for sure.
Right. What's that all about? You're a lot younger than me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say, well, social media, but I think the video content people are consuming is full of, here's how you can do this for cheaper. Here's how you can get this for free. I mean, in this, aside from even housing related things, I go on social media. It's like, here's how you can get Chick-fil-A breakfast for free. You show up at 11:59 and ask for breakfast samples. Or,
Yeah.
Here's how you can download this code, get the Popeyes receipt for your $1 sauce, and then get a bucket of chicken for free. I think people just, maybe part of it is they're economically trying to pay for something they shouldn't be. Or they had somebody else that they know that's beating their chest over a deal they got that they're not sharing all the details about. Or, yeah, they want to discover the hack to getting something for better. Also, I feel like people just don't like being told the word no. People don't like to believe there's rules.
That's true. Yeah, there's always a way around something. There's always a hack. I'll tell you what. This is something, we're talking about the social media thing, and I really want your opinion on this one. Influencers. is that going to get worse or is that starting to go away? I was at Chesmars, that new bar that just opened up, right? It just opened up probably like 2 weeks ago. We took some clients there for an annual review, sat down, got some food, got a couple drinks, and I watched not one, not two, not three, but 4 influencers, not at the same time, all at different times, come in with their tripods and get a bunch of appetizers and run like a little influencer thing. And I felt like, okay, this is, it was like watching real, because I've been doing this long enough. It was like watching real estate in 2020. And it's like everybody was a real estate agent. Everybody thought that they were the best real estate agent. Everybody, and I'm like, there's just no way that 4 influencers in Austin can be coming through here. And it was just, that wasn't like the only 4 that showed up, not just that day, but like in general. So everyone's an influencer now. And I guess my question is that going to continue, or has being an influencer jumped the shark?
I like opinion questions like this. So I guess just a smidge of background. Most new restaurants or bars, when they open up, they usually do this party for influencers, like right before they open, and they want everyone to get all their content and everything ahead of time so they can start blasting out about this grand opening. I went to the influencer party at Electric Shuffle on Rainy Street under the Quincy Apartments. Highly recommend. Cool place. Got to try the entire drink menu, the whole food menu, like everything was just passed around for free. Try all of their games. Everything was free. There were probably, I would have to say, and I only got the invite because my friend Austin, who owns Austin, Texas Things on Instagram, he's not a social guy, but his profile, despite that it's just literally pictures of like stock images of Austin, has several 100,000 followers. But he gets these invites to these things and he doesn't want to go to it. So he gave it to me just as a gift. And I think there were probably, if I had to guess, probably 300 influencers there.
No way. With like tripods and shit?
Oh, the whole 9 yards. And a lot of them were just there hanging out, networking, getting drunk. But everyone was filming. And it's crazy that there's that many food and event and things to do influencers just here in Austin.
So have we reached the peak, or do you think we're still on the upswing?
I don't know. That's a good one because,
I mean, everything bubbles.
I have a feeling that I think we're going to reach a point where companies don't really want to pay for their sponsorship of all of these people. I think there's going to be a couple in every city that keep their reign supreme.
Their clout.
Just like your thing at Chesmars. I went to swim club the first week it opened. This is on a Thursday at lunch. And yes, our girl Rachel from 512 Bites. Shout out
Rachel.
Friend of the podcast. And kind of friends of the podcast room.
Yeah. No, she's a friend.
I forgot what the other girl was. I want to call it like Austin 360. That wasn't it. Something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sitting at my table watching 2 different influencers do their influencing. And, I think it's cool to get the word out about new restaurants. I think the restaurants absolutely appreciate it. I don't know if their meals are comped or how they work out that, but I doubt the restaurant's paying them a check for it.
Okay.
And in turn, it probably got tons of people to go to the restaurant. And, I mean, swim club, I'm sure it blew up that weekend.
Right.
Because everyone was talking about it online. I feel like we're at the point where someone could start fresh, but they need something quirky, something different. You can't just start a page and say, I'm an Austin food influencer. Like
So you don't think we've peaked yet, but we're close?
I think the ladder you're going to have to climb to just be a regular food influencer is going to be tough. Now, if someone niched down really hard and they said, I am the hamburger influencer of Austin. I only rate burgers.
Still an influencer, though.
Yeah. So I think there can be more.
So you don't think we've reached the peak yet? Because I have another question for
No,
you.
because I think there will always be, the generation we have right now doing it is going to get older, and new younger people are going to come in. The older ones are going to gravitate towards doing certain types of content. The younger ones, Gen Alpha, is going to have new type of content.
Here's the reason I asked the
Yeah.
question, because I think that there is a direct correlation between what I'm talking about and being a real estate agent. And here's why. I feel like, for whatever reason, being a real estate agent is something that people think is cool, right?
Mm.
Because let's face it, being an influencer is cool, right? Or at least that's what people think. And so I would envision that, just like real estate, if I right now had 100 real estate agents at my office, there's probably 10 to 15 of them that are, doing pretty well, right? And I would envision that it's very similar to the influencing space, regardless of what they're doing, whether it's food or your niche thing, whatever you talk about. And so what is debatable with real estate, to your point, someone might say, well, there's always going to be real estate agents. Like, and when I'm like, have we hit the bubble of real estate agents in the business? You're like, well, Gen Alpha's going to need real estate agents. I'm not saying that new ones won't come on, but there's always going to be people falling off. I mean, we know statistically in the last few years, we've lost a ton of real estate agents. So it's debatable that, like, we have a number of agents, probably in its peak, I would say, in the middle to late 2021. And then from there, we've kind of been watching the numbers dwindle. That's not to say that they won't come back. So going to influencers, have we reached the 2021 for real estate in influencing?
Gosh. I also want to take this question from real estate standpoint after. I think we're very saturated with influencers. Do I see more coming on? Yes. Do I think we will have the huge pop in number of influencers? I'm pretty sure 2020, probably during COVID, we probably had the most influencers start.
So you think there's influencers that are falling off?
Yes.
Because I think that would be, just like real estate, I think it's a really cool thing to say that you do. But then if I were to meet an influencer, like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm an influencer. I would love to be like, well, how do you monetize it? How much money do you make? Right? Because that's I don't do this to real estate agents, but that is literally the first thing that goes through my mind when I meet another real estate agent. I'm like, oh, you're a real estate agent. Like I understand you're licensed and you do that, but do you pay your bills as a real estate agent, or you just are one? Because those are two separate things.
Yeah. I think I have to assume every real estate agent who gets their license thinks it will be their full-time job. But I mean, harsh reality of it, and we have 30,000 in Austin, and if I had to take a wild stab at this number, I'd say only 1,000. It's their full-time job.
Out of 30,000?
Okay, that might be very low.
That's really low. That's got to be way more than that. If
sure
there's
hope.
30,000 agents, then
wait. Sorry, back up. That it's their only job.
Okay. Even then, I would think at least. It's got to be at least.
I could
1 to
also
3%.
say probably half of them could be partially supported by a spouse financially.
That's true.
I don't know. I would like to see I would love if they posted demographics of who's single, who's married.
I would
Tell
love
me
to
all
see
this
the
info.
side by side real estate versus influencer, because I can almost guarantee you it's fucking identical.
I bet it is. Well, so I mean, just like we had this huge pop in influencers in 2020 when they were all bored at home during COVID.
Yep.
And I know several friends who started up a profile. Actually, well, I only know one that actually turned into something. And she made it her whole career.
Right. But you knew people that started and failed, right?
For
Just
sure.
like real estate.
Yeah. And right after we had this huge boom in our real estate market, and a lot of people got in. I think influencers and realtors both, you will always have those that are getting out of the business, always have those that are coming in. I mean, again, I would love to see the demographics. I'm sure there's a chart that shows us somewhere, but I would have to assume that probably 50% of the listings in Austin are listed by a baby boomer aged realtor. I might be wrong here.
I could see that.
But I think, the older you are, naturally, the more properties you'll have, the more likely you have properties. Well, that's going to have to change. People die off. The property gets inherited by a Gen Xer, and now their Gen X realtor is going to rise to power. And then we have to bring in the Gen Alpha realtors to work with all the new renters who want to have apartment locating.
Well, I'm gonna give you my prediction.
Right.
I think we are at the peak of influencing, and I'll tell you why. I think that the majority of influencers are advertising things that are, they're places or things that you spend your disposable income on, right? It's not like they're influencing for like building supplies or commodities or something along those lines. It's things that
start being a corn and battery influencer.
Right. It's like restaurants, it's alcohol, it's things that you would buy for your children, whatever extras that you would have. And as we just talked about with interest rates, we're starting to see the fact that they're considering reducing the Fed's funds rate, right? And what that ultimately means economically is that we're starting to see cracks in the economy. It means people are going out less. It means people are spending less money on things that they don't really need, right? And the idea that you just mentioned, that influencing really took off in 2020 and in 2021, and you know what else did? Inflation, right? And what that means is that you had a ton of people with a ton of money going out and spending on things that they technically didn't need. They had more disposable income, which then gives businesses more revenue. And then there's the competition where they're going, well, who can we get to, influence our products, right? And I truly believe that the influencing space right now, if I were a full-blown influencer, I would be a little concerned, not because like the industry itself is going to blow up, but just like real estate, if you're not on the top echelon of influencers right now with a ton of followers, you got your shit together, you're doing all of the things, I think you're going to find yourself getting told otherwise it's a hobby, right? You can be an free influencing hobbyist if you want. I could be an influencer. Shit, I don't have enough followers for anyone to actually pay me, Lone Star. But, it's happening. You're seeing the cracks in the economies, and people are going out less, and these restaurants are not going to pay people. They're not going to do the things, and they're not going to say, yeah, we're going to give you like 6 free appetizers. Go ahead and film it. I think we're at the bubble is about to burst.
I would also like to see, what defines what makes you an influencer? Because, you got the hobbyist and you got the full-timers. Like, most influencers are not the ATX drinker, not 512 bites. They have a full-time job. So I feel like technically, aren't I an influencer anytime? The other day, I go to Austin Pickle Ranch. I, make a video of it. I post it. Aren't I an influencer?
But why are you doing that?
For me, it's because I put on my business profile to show people I'm out and about in my city.
Exactly. You're doing it to monetize the real estate side of things.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to make money off the Pickle
Correct.
Ranch.
So
unless they want to pay me.
And call them.
That's another owner we could get on there. That's like one level of connection.
That'd be great.
I could absolutely call them.
But yeah, so I would define an influencer as anybody that is monetizing or basically, being paid by a business in some form of fashion, whether it's, free food, free entry. If you're hardcore enough that you're literally being paid, I would even go to the extent of saying someone who has a YouTube page, for example, that is monetizing it through like ads that they don't even choose. I've been approached by people. They're like, listen, you have a semi-decent following. If you put an ad in the beginning of your podcast, one in the middle and one in the end, they literally will give me like 2 cents. Like legitimately. If you're monetizing your social media content in any way outside of like what we are doing, because I'm the same as you, like I do it to create content, to stay top of mind, to provide anything of value so that if and when someone's thinking about buying a house, they think of me, right? And plus I like it, it's fun. but I'm not directly being compensated in any way, whether it be by product or money. So I don't personally consider myself an influencer. But if you are one of those people and you're like, yeah, like who did we have on that was talking about his course that he sells?
Yeah, Austin Davis, who
Yeah.
makes about 60, 70 grand a year just
Right.
off monetization on his YouTube.
That would be an example of somebody that I would argue, and these clips, you know, I know very little about the space in general, but I do know economics, and I feel like that's going to get squeezed. It's coming.
I do agree it's going to get squeezed. The other thing is advertising has changed.
Okay.
So even as recently as when I was getting my advertising degree, we were still discussing, we were still doing projects that involved radio commercials, TV commercials. I mean, that stuff still exists. It's just different, I would have to assume most of the brand new restaurants that are getting all of this social media clout from these influencers, they're probably spending very little on actual marketing. So, it's going a lot further for them to give away some appetizers and some drinks and then pay for a radio ad with,
I mean, that's a great point. And again, I feel like every business has a budget. And the point I'm trying to make with what you're saying is if I was giving away X amount of dollars worth of free stuff to X amount of dollars of influencers, I think that X amount of dollars is getting reduced. And so one of two things will happen. Either every influencer is going to get less, or the good ones are going to continue to get what they are used to, and the lower end ones are going to get pushed out.
I agree.
Just like what happened in real estate.
Exactly. You oversaturate the market with providers, naturally you're going to lower what each of them get paid. Similar to realtors, the best ones, your top 20 agents in Austin are never going to work for less than
Right.
their 3%. Then there's 25,000 that will absolutely take a listing at a discount, absolutely take a buyer with a rebate. It's okay for them because they know that they're disposable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And we're having Anthony on here in the next couple of days. He's coming in with his other page, though. Not the ATX Drinker,
Boys?
but the Whiskey Boys. And the other
This is big.
Yeah, the other
Came
Whiskey
in
Boy.
from Jersey?
Yep, they're going to be here, both of them.
Wow.
So you better be here.
What day is that?
It's tomorrow.
Shit. What
Yeah,
time?
they're coming for the barbecue. I don't know. I just told them to swing through.
I got listing photos from 2:30 to probably 3:30. I'll be back after.
Yeah, come back because we were like, yeah, maybe because they wanted to do a podcast by themselves. I was like, that's totally cool. I'll set you up. And then they were like, wait, maybe we should just kind of wing it and jump on. Because I was like, yeah, I mean, Chase should be here. Like, we can hook up all 4 mics. We'll get 3 cameras running. We'll have like a market on the rocks with the Whiskey Boys.
Push them back a little further.
I don't have that. That's the thing.
You don't know when.
Yeah, I was just like, they're just going to show up. We're just going to fly by the seat of our pants on. It'll be fun.
Sounds good.
And I'm going to ask him all of these questions in regards to because he's, he's, from what I gather, a pretty big deal in the space. I mean, maybe big deal, but he's a bigger fish in the influencing space. And I want to know his thoughts because I would envision that he runs into people on a regular basis that are like, oh, I wish I was doing what you're doing. How do you do it? Tell me this, that.
This morning I was saying, I wish I was a food. I was looking at one of Hungry Longhorn's posts and he was eating this bagel and I was like, damn, wish that was my morning eating bagels.
You want to do it for the food or for the camera?
Mostly for the food, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I love attention, so
sure,
no reason not to, but yeah, mostly for the free shit.
Well, and that's why I relate the whole idea of the influencer with the real estate agent because I swear to you, I've been doing this long enough that there are real estate agents that are in this business that I could convince that if all I had to do was just kind of like support their modest lifestyle, they wouldn't get paid in dollars because they just love being, online and making the videos and being in the house and oh, I'm on my boat now and all this other stuff. It's odd.
Well, the other thing,
but you would do it for the food.
Well, I mean, yeah,
totally different. Not
I'm gonna show you the bagels he's eating this morning.
For the love of food. Fuck the fame.
Yeah, I mean, one F over another.
Right.
Well, the other thing is, as a realtor, we have, one person is running a whole company. You wear so many hats. Like, I still haven't filed my taxes because I'm not the best bookkeeper.
I have a CPA that can help you with that.
Don't worry, I have a CPA. I need the liaison between me and the CPA.
He can refer you to someone.
I don't.
Pre does
I don't wanna pay-
bookkeeping. That's what he does.
Yeah, but then I have to work with Pre.
Yeah,
All right.
okay, fair enough. I understand.
No, I really don't want to pay for someone for something I really can't do myself. I'm just choosing not to. But then we also have to be the finder, keeper, doer of our job. We got to find our business, whatever marketing that means. We have to do our actual jobs, which includes a very long list of things. Then we have to retain that business later. So,
and then handle all the objections as to why you should.
Yeah, and then we got to help them break up their rate, and then we have to. Yeah. So, where's I going with this? But like with anyone with their job, there's certain aspects you like more than others,
right?
And some people just really love data. They really love helping people make investment decisions on properties. Some people absolutely love showing houses. I really don't care about showing houses. I'll walk in and tell you what everything is and how much it costs to fix it, but I mean, it really gives me minimal satisfaction to walk through even a super, super nice house. I don't know, at the end of the day, it's all just house. Unless, I'm not showing $20 million houses. Those would probably impress me.
Well, serious question from the influencer to real estate side of things. Do you know anyone who is ultimately a real estate agent that is ultimately an influencer that takes those deals that they receive, though, and just hands them off? Because you mentioned, there's so many parts of the job, right? So, we have business development reps. Title companies have business development reps. Is there a real estate agent that that is literally just the influencer for his or her kind of team and doesn't even really do any real estate?
I can't say with 100% certainty, but I have a list of agents I could believe, since they're running a team, that they're just a spokesperson. They probably meet with that client once, then they hand it on to their designated buyer's agent, designated listing agent.
Interesting.
And just because the amount of speaking engagements and the amount of content and things that agent is making, it would be hard for me to believe that they are out showing houses to the average person every day.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about social media stars like Glenda Baker. Do you know her?
The name sounds familiar, but
she's in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's probably I don't know, in her 60s or so.
Is she blonde?
Blonde, very Southern accent.
I actually have had the pleasure of I don't know if she did it for free, but Gold Star, we had her for our entire I don't know what you call it, our entire corporation. We had it for all of the branch managers. So I got to see her speak about a year and a half ago. I know exactly who you're talking about. She was just at the RNC convention.
Probably. Yeah, she's at every single conference.
Very Southern accent. Yeah, I know.
I see her at, all the Tom Ferry events. And I mean, a wonderfully charming lady, if you ever have the pleasure of meeting her. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she does work with buyers and sellers here and there. But I know she has a full team, and there's no way the intake of leads she's getting, she is handling all by herself. So would she be 100% referral based? Probably not. But I do think there is some opportunity for an agent to get in that game where they can just be the influence. Look, if you can get leads, you can make money. I mean, actually, shout out Austin Archuleta with Smart Austin Realty. He doesn't work with any buyers or sellers, but he gets leads and he transfers them to other agents. He's not an influencer though. He's running targeted ads and things like that that are getting the leads. But he's got his broker's license, and he's
what about Waters? You think Waters is running buyers?
I doubt it.
Right?
But yeah, he's the figurehead. And so, you go up the top of the pyramid. The person at the top of the pyramid is not actually working with the clients. They're getting leads and transferring them over. That person could easily be an influencer. That could be running a whole pyramid under them.
I mean, that's kind of what he's doing, right? I mean, now that I think about it, he is the real estate influencer.
He's on the radio ads.
Right.
I just got a recruiting call from someone at his company this morning.
Unreal.
They want, here we go. They said they would give you all of your buyer and seller leads guaranteed. Guaranteed. I don't know where they're getting this guarantee. 15 clients a month. Now, again, that could just be a name in a hat. That might not actually be
Sure.
a real
They
person.
didn't guarantee 15 closings.
Yeah. You're going to begin at 50-50 split on your commission. Then you're going to go to 70-30. And they said they'll provide all of the transaction management, photography, and all of the other stuff in the background. To me, doesn't quite seem worth it yet, but I told them, hey, if with the right starting bonus, I'm open. They're like, we're not giving starting bonuses. I said, call me when you are.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I actually had this conversation with Ina. I said, you never want to switch brokerages when times are slow. And the irony is I feel like that is when all real estate agents switch brokerages because, it's never them. It's always the brokerage. And so when business slows down, it can't be because of the market or because of, practices that they probably aren't doing. It has to be the brokerage. And so you watch this just shuffle of agents everywhere in slow markets. And what I've identified is doing that is not only kind of like is not a good look, but it's also very noticeable, which is why it's not a good look. And then lastly, you're not going to get your worth, whatever your worth is in a down market. You're just not. And the best thing to do is to switch brokerages when things are going well. But the problem is that everybody is so like reactive. They're like, but I have like 3 listings I'm going to have to give up. It's like, get rid of them. Forget about it. Like you can, if the market's hot, you'll pick up 3 listings in like however many days. So to your point with signing bonuses and all of that, if things do continue to turn and we see the market pick up, which I do see that in not the near future, but I mean, maybe in the next 12 months, that's when you'll get your bonus, Chase.
Yeah. I love All City. I have no intention of switching, but let's just put it out there. If someone wants to pay me a massive starting bonus, and by massive, I mean like half of my annual salary.
Okay.
For like a 4-year contract.
Put it in the universe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll switch. I was also thinking about the idea. I could, if I finish the classwork, take the test, I could apply for my broker's license now. I would like to see like what, since I have a business degree from college, a lot of the it says like university coursework can transfer. I would love to see what transfers and, yeah, I think it'd be really cool to get my broker's license. For 2 reasons. One, because let's say I was trying to move to someone else's brokerage, they could hire me as a managing broker or something, and that would be worth a lot more to them. The other thing is, I think if I were to meet with a buyer or seller, I could say, we have 30,000 agents in Austin. Becoming a real estate agent can be a hobby for a lot of people. We don't know that their heart's in it. We don't know how long they're going to last in this business. When you become a broker, that's like getting your PhD in real estate. You were saying this will be my career, pretty much for good. I would assume the dropout rate of brokers is very small compared to the dropout rate of realtors.
I would agree. Unfortunately, I don't think to a client that means anything.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think the first part, though, is good. And then I think at the end of the day, one of the nice things about having your broker's license, and if you really, it's like anything. It's like, how many attorneys I know that passed the bar that are attorneys that don't do anything in law? And like, they never forget to remind you that they're an attorney. But like, and then I even know attorneys that do stuff in law and they work for firms, as like just one of the cogs in the wheel, and they make way less money than me.
Yeah, just a general counsel.
Right. So just because you're an attorney, it doesn't. Doctors, same thing. I know people who literally are doctors, and they're not running private practices. They're working in hospitals and everything, and are making a fraction of what like a doctor with an actual like business mindset has the ability to do and run a private practice and everything along those lines. So, yeah, I think to your point, like doing something along those lines, it's a noble goal, but if you don't do anything with it, nobody's going to care when you're like, well, let me just tell you, I'm a broker, so this is completely like, The only people who are going to care are other brokers, and they're
That's
your competition.
fair.
And then they just kind of are going to go, Chase thinks he's better than me because he's a broker.
Well, I will think I'm better than people.
I love it.
This is like the minute I graduated college, I was like, well, I have a degree in that. You talk about
I
advertising.
have
I'm
heard
like,
you
I
a few
have
times mention your degree in marketing and
I do have a
advertising.
degree in advertising. I'm just letting you know.
Well,
And also a minor in economics.
there we go. I dropped out of college.
Wow. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Best thing I ever did. But
Degree from the streets.
that's right. Just the hard knock mortgage life, man, you know, pre-08 and everything. But anything you want to give a shout out to? I got to wrap this up. I have somewhere I have to be. And, well, I'll actually, you know what? I'll start. I got to get this clip out as quickly as we can. Friday, barbecue and mingle. We're doing it every single Friday. Want to continue to have people coming through, get people together, talk about real estate, talk about just economics, all of those things, tell those war stories, and try to figure out ways that we can continue to connect business and clients.
Wow, that's great. Let's see. If you own a business in Austin, I would love to chat with you on our bigger pod. Well, I don't even know if you consider it bigger podcast. Our more branded podcast, Market on the Rocks.
More fun.
And I would love to hear more about your place in Austin.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, also my flip house is pending. That's exciting. And got a new listing coming soon in Plum Creek and Kyle. So if you heard that segment about Kyle and you heard that I'm going to have 2 houses for the price of 1, better hit me up.
I got a good one for Chase, actually. So Matt made this a mention, and I think that you should be if you are one of Chase's past clients that purchased anywhere between 2021 and now, and you are not very and you want to move, it is very possible now that you are past the 2-year timeline of capital gains, and you're able to basically purchase a new home while selling your current home, and your rate will probably be lower. That is one way to reduce your interest rate. Buy another home. Sell the one you have and avoid your capital gains.
Who purchased between 2021 and now?
Yep.
How are you past capital gains?
Well, 2021 and then 2023 will put you, but you're right. You got a whole nother year. If you're close, Chase still wants to have that conversation with you, because this time next year, you will be past the capital gains point.
Yeah, also, if you feel like you're trapped in your house and you really want to sell, but you know that we are in a buyer's market, whether or not the statistics say so or not, and you want a guaranteed offer on your first home because you have some equity in it, and you want to make sure you can take advantage of negotiating real hard on home right now in this market, I have some great products that can help you.
Love it. Chase, always a pleasure. We'll probably be on tomorrow.
See you 20 feet away.